right, I'm David Siegel.
And I'm Scott McGehee.
We are the directors and writers of Montana Story, which was released by Bleecker Street. And we're here to speak with Frances O'Connor, who directed Emily.
Miss Emily Bronte.
You're off to become a wonderful teacher.
You know I don't like to meet new people.
What do you want to do?
Do you think I could be a writer?
Hello, Frances.
Hello, isn't this nice? Yeah, so nice to meet you guys.
Likewise,
Yeah.
big admirers.
Yeah, I'm right back at you.
Well, we were so thrilled to watch your film because it is your directorial debut, and it's so beautifully realized and so visually sumptuous, and the performances are so striking. We were just really taken with it.
Oh, thank you.
It's something to really be proud of. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
You know, your comfort with camera and all the kind of visual side of filmmaking really shows. Like it's really confident and assured. So,
Oh, thank you.
it's a delight.
Well,
Yeah.
if I pass the test with you guys, I feel
Maybe the simplest way to start is just like, how did it all begin for you? How did you, you've probably been asked this a million times.
No, it's nice to talk about it with filmmakers, though. You can kind of like, it feels good. But yeah, I kind of, I'm an actor as well, and I'd kind of wanted to direct something for a while. And just talking to director friends, they said, if you want to direct something, it's good to kind of, the best way into it is to write your own script. And to write something you feel very passionately about. And I've always really loved Wuthering Heights. I've always really loved Emily Bronte, and she's a bit of an icon for me because she was kind of like a bit of a weirdo, a bit of she was an introvert. She kind of did things differently and saw the world differently, and I just really relate to that. And I just thought it would be a good way into the film to do a story about like a woman trying to find her voice, which is kind of, I guess, what I was also trying to do with this story. So it felt kind of comfortable. And so I just worked on the script in between acting gigs until it became a real story. And then we like really did a lot of development with it, with friends, or reading it around our kitchen table and all of that.
Do you think I could be a writer?
Perhaps. You have to show me something first, though.
I have lots of stories.
We were really curious, just the relationship between kind of conjecture and storytelling and a historical figure. There's a really fun tension throughout, as you're kind of like, I see the antecedents of that in Wuthering Heights, or I know that from historical fact, but then other things, it felt like you were very free to kind of tell a good tale.
Yeah.
And I just wondered about that process, how you balanced all of that.
Yeah. When I was doing all the research, I just started to see a story forming about a young woman forming herself, and what that was going to be someone quite different. And that just naturally came organically from the research that I did. And I didn't really want to tell a story that was like, respectful, biographical, because we have enough of those. I wanted to do something different. And that's what I felt about Wuthering Heights too. It was kind of this great kind of flight of imagination. And I really felt that I wanted to do something that honoured that and kind of mix different things. So it mixed kind of the feeling of Wuthering Heights and then parts of her chronology and her poetry, and and just let it like not edit myself and let it be what it wanted it to be. So like take, for example, like the mask scene. The mask was like a real object that the Brontes had in their house, and it was given to Patrick for a wedding present. They didn't know who it came from, and I just thought, well, that's intriguing.
That scene is magical. It happens early in the film, and when that scene comes, you just feel like, wow, I'm in for something. Like the power and mystery and weirdness and kind of gothic kind of craziness of that scene is. Was that a sequence you had really, kind of visualized and worked out ahead of time with your DP, or how did that relationship go?
Yeah, I got together with a DP about 4 months before, and we just kind of, because I wanted to really kick the tires, so I really knew exactly at each moment how we wanted to tell the story. So, and that was one sequence that we really spent a lot of time talking about, because we knew it was kind of the moment where we were kind of going to tip the audience into something different, and we wanted it to be, really exciting for the audience. And and it was quite difficult too, in terms of how we were going to do it. So yeah, it took a long time to kind of plan the shot list and the sound, the music, all of those elements. We did a lot of rehearsal on it as a group with the actors.
It's so well realized editorially. It's shot really well, but it really comes alive editorially in a way that I was really impressed by.
Well, it's just like a set piece in the movie. It really is striking. It's really just kind of sumptuous. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're really pleased with it. It's one of those ones where I'm sure you guys know this, where you've got certain sequences that are more ambitious than other parts of the film and technically more challenging, and because of that, it feels more risky. But that was one part of the film that I felt like, as a first-time filmmaker, oh wow, okay, that worked. That really worked, and it's a good feeling. Yeah.
We've often had a moment in a screenplay that, often it's a really early something that kind of becomes an anchor for some part of that storytelling, and it will be exactly in the screenplay, and we'll just stick with exactly what we imagine. And I think that's one of the things that we find super delightful when we finish a project. Is look, that's that thing that never changed. We saw that
from the start.
We saw that coming. We worked at it, and it's like visualized exactly kind of how we imagined it. That is one of the thrills.
It's weird how that, because that's my first experience of it, it's been from your imagination, which is this thing that exists kind of somewhere in the clouds, and then for that to kind of become this physical thing or moment, it's kind of, I don't know, there's something very special about it. I think it's quite addictive. I think that's why people keep making films, for those moments, maybe.
It's sort of in that vein, when we were writing Montana Story, we were writing it like the first summer of the pandemic. And so we were locked in our respective apartments, working over the phone or over Zoom. So when we came up with the principal location for the movie, it's a ranch that these two siblings are returning to. And we wrote a very specific thing based on research that we did about Montana and our imaginations. And so weirdly, we actually found a place, because we had to do it all very, very quickly and very, very kind of cocooned in a way because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that location turned out to actually play almost exactly the way we had written it, down to there being chickens on the farm on the ranch that is the way that the movie begins. So I was just wondering, it's set in a particular kind of landscape in England, and I was just wondering, as you were writing, did you imagine it did the actual location wind up corresponding to your imagination, or did it change quite a lot in terms of the house and the hills and?
Well, actually, I just wanted to say too, when I was watching Montana Story and that vista, I felt like that in a way kind of connected to the landscape in Emily, that it's kind of has this feeling of things being open and opening up and being in a landscape that has very much its own feeling, which gets imprinted on the whole film in a really great way. But it's so interesting that you wrote that.
We felt the same thing watching your film, how important that landscape was for and the weather and the wind and all of the kind of,
and how it forms the characters.
Outdoors, yeah.
Even though say in Montana Story, those characters have been away for a while, but they're formed from that landscape, and they're returning back to it. But I was just going to say, that's a great pandemic film to write, because it was so open and so vista-like, so I could understand why you picked Montana for that story. It'd be very good for a few New Yorkers.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
When we went to go make the movie, it was the first time we had left the city in those many, many months since the pandemic began.
When I was watching the film, I thought, I want to go there.
It's a beautiful place.
I want to be in that. It felt like a nice place.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah. Yeah. To answer your question, so I actually had been to Howarth a long time ago. I was doing a film and the director got sick, so I had 2 weeks free. So I just went up there, and it was so evocative. They run this parsonage, and it's like the Brontes have just left. It's just put together with so much love. And then you can walk from there, from that town that we ended up shooting in, up the hills and up into the moors. So I kind of wrote from that place, but we actually ended up shooting an hour and a half north, which is much wilder, and I'd never been there. And it was actually better. It was even more kind of wild and woolly than the landscape that I knew. So we and that's what we captured in the film, and so that was kind of great to get out there and do these recce's and just
You
see
had it
this.
in your head.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Something else we were thinking about when we were just thinking about you as a filmmaker, as opposed to us as filmmakers, and we have these conversations with other directors all the time, which is we never get to actually see each other work. Like, how does that? How does another director work? But you've had the experience as an actress.
You've been on maybe 50 films as an actress, something close to that.
So you've had the great fortune, which I'm very jealous of actually getting to watch many, some good, some bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so I'm so comfortable on a set. Like, that's my kind of happy place. So, but always on the other side of the lens. But you do know the rhythm of a day really, really well, like just instinctually. And so that felt like a big advantage. When I was younger, I never really even noticed what directors were doing because I was so just in love with acting. And so I was just like this. But then kind of once this was much more under control, I often would just sit and say, oh, what lens do you have on? Or, you know, like, why are you doing a tracking shot there? Or that kind of thing. So you do kind of learn on the job. And getting to watch some of these really, you know, fantastic directors work, and also like people where you're like, I never would put the camera there, you know, it's also great too. And not that I was right, but so you do. It's a great education actually for finally getting up and directing. But I probably should have got into it sooner because I think it's very hard when you're an actor. I think to kind of cross over and have courage to have the confidence to tell your own stories, but and it is different on the other side of the lens. Certain things that you assumed as an actor are not true when you're on the other side. So I thought that was really interesting.
Was there any like takeaway surprise that was just like, wow, I never knew?
I think as an actor, you get kind of treated with kid gloves a little bit, and like the makeup team are your best friends, and like as a director, they are not your best friends. You know, they're kind of like time and like, well, I don't want to do that because of my actor and all of that.
Enemy might be more.
Yeah, exactly. You're like just sweating as they come towards you. You know, like, and you have to keep so many people happy. Like the political nature of all the HODs. I mean, we had a great team, and you know, it was fine, but you're shielded from that as an actor, whereas like you have to make, as a director, I don't know if you guys feel this, like you have to keep everybody happy in a way and make them feel valued.
That's my job.
All right, cool. Oh yeah, so how does it work between the two of you? And do you guys write together, right? Always write together, yeah.
We do.
And then how do two people direct, and who does what? I wish I had another one of me, that would be great.
Well, I think that's it really, is that we've been described as one person with, one brain with two bodies, I think. And maybe that wasn't a compliment. But,
all right.
An actor said that, so.
All right.
But we plan really thoroughly, and it's such a collaborative medium anyway. It's like you're always relying on a producer or a DP or the editor on the phone, or so you're like. It seems like it's a very conversational art form.
Yeah.
When we started working together, we neither of us went to film school. I was a painter, and Scott was in graduate school. He was going to be an academic. And so when we started making short films, and it was quite a long time ago now, there was no one there to tell us that you might want to like separate your duties. So we were just doing it together, and it just kept evolving that way. And our roles on set are a little bit different. You know, I take a little bit more of a driving the set sort of position, but we really just do it all together.
And do you guys both direct actors, or?
We do. Again, like maybe I'm the first person, you know, I tend to stand by the camera and step forward first, but we do both direct the actors as well.
Yeah,
we rehearse together.
Yeah, from the rehearsal process on, we're like it's very conversational. We've learned that it's hard for an actor to, I tend to give my notes to David and have David be like one voice that's speaking to an actor, just so it doesn't, he can filter any differences that we're feeling and kind of get it out in a coherent
Yeah.
note.
At this point, there's so much unspoken communication that happens between us because we've been doing it for so long.
Oh, yeah. So you just have to give each
Yeah.
other a look, and you know what the note is a bit. Like we have to do another take. Or...
Yeah, right.
I was thinking how much we love having an actor collaborator who's thinking about the filmmaking process in a bigger way, you know, who isn't just thinking about what they're doing, but is thinking about the scene or understands where camera's
even
doing
what-
or how
what-
a scene's going to be put together
Or what the frame is, really, what's actually happening. Sometimes with actors, it's as if they're not remembering that it's just a frame. Like we're constructing frames, like we're not constructing the real world. We're constructing rectangles that go together.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's an important part of the process for us, especially because we consider ourselves very visual filmmakers. So
some actors are really intuitive and kind of like we
Very,
communicate really easily about what we need, and then sometimes it's more of a struggle to kind of, you know, cross that divide. But I was thinking how from our point of view, it's like, oh, it's so great to have an actor who's visual, but from an actor's point of view, it must be so great to have a director who understands acting.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
they must really appreciate like a language that you have that is, you know, kind of different.
Yeah,
from,
maybe. Yeah, well, I guess you know very intimately what it's like to be in front of a camera and how hard it is, and so that you're. For most people, I feel like a lot of directors I have worked with are very empathetic anyway. But I think you have a lot of empathy for what the actor's trying to do, and you speak their language, and because you're all actors, like you can't really bullshit each other, you know, in a way that you could maybe with someone who's just less aware of the machinations of or mechanics of acting. I mean, we did a lot of rehearsal. We did like 2 weeks rehearsal, and I did stuff like we got a 3-piece band to come and like dance so the actors could dance every morning of rehearsal and loosen up. I just did the rehearsal that I would have loved to have had it myself.
Oh, that's genius.
So it was really fun, and just so that it was fun, so that, you know, it just felt very joyous.
I mean, everyone in the movie is terrific. I mean, Emma Mackey, who plays Emily, it's really quite a performance, and a surprising one, because at least for me watching it, I didn't really anticipate the complexity of the character. Like it's quite simple in the beginning, and she really, and I think the mask scene really, after that mask scene, you really wonder about Emily in a very different way, and it really opens up beautifully.
Yeah, we were kind of going for this notion of like, what is the introvert? And when people view introverts, that often they're the person that you're not looking at in the room. And so that we just, in that first 20 minutes, we put the camera on her while the people are talking. So you start to connect to her, but it's not until the mask scene that like the stuff comes out of her. But because she's wearing a mask, she can kind of let it out in a way. And we just kind of talked about, that long arc that she's got. It's quite a long arc, and she ends up in a really different place in some ways by the end of the film. So it was just talking about that a lot while we were shooting. Where do you think you're at in this scene and that scene?
It was a kind of unexpected arc for me that you're following a love story. I mean, kind of in a kind of generic way, kind of rooting for a love story, even though he seems so unequal to her. Like there's something like she seems like she's got so much going on that he maybe isn't up to the task. But still I found myself rooting for it. But then the arc continues after the kind of conclusion of that story. The arc continues in a really satisfying way, and I thought that was a really nice kind of solution to understanding her life and kind of her impact on a generation, or
her family,
women artists, and all
family.
of that.
Yeah, I think I didn't want it to be just about. I wanted that to be part of her evolution as an artist. That relationship was part of how she became who she did, and I was kind of interested in examining, the kind of fallout from life, and how at least you can, at the end of the day, you can sit in front of a desk and write something to kind of put it all to rights in a way. And isn't that wonderful that we still have literature to do that, and that she could still find her voice, even though some terrible things had kind of happened or not worked out for her.
I just want to stay in my bedroom until your friend Ellen goes.
For 3 days.
You know what I'm like.
Can't you see how that will be perceived? How rude, how strange.
Well, you can tell her I've gone away for a few days.
No, that's insane.
I won't do it, Charlotte, I won't.
Nice journey with her.
Yeah, yeah. And I think she just did such a beautiful job of not always playing the obvious kind of thing. And yeah.
No, I found myself having so much anxiety for her. The kind of darker places she goes and her character goes are so palpable and, you know, kind of there and full. And I found myself throughout it, you know, really rooting for her, but having so much kind of tension about, like, is it going to work out?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. We kind of, I mean, I like that the character is kind of has this darkness to her, and that is just her. She's got this thing in her, which is her creative energy, I guess, and there's a darkness to that, which is what he can't handle, and what a lot of the family are a little bit afraid of in that mask scene. And that it's almost like, I mean, I don't know if you guys feel like that, but that kind of creative part you have in us, it kind of has its own driving kind of mechanism.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of artists feel like that. So I kind of wanted to represent that as well. But also we tried to do this thing in that kind of, just from the halfway through the second act up into coming into that third act, to have these scenes where we don't put any wides, and we just kind of really edit it very tightly, and we put no music on it, which is kind of like when he rejects her, you know, where you've got that cake that sags, and she takes opium, and you know, she kind of destroys her brother, and we kind of edited that for tension, just like very, you don't get a break as an audience, we don't relieve the tension.
There's no breath in it.
Yeah, until that music comes in, and then it's music that doesn't help, you know, it makes you feel more anxious. And it was so, I really enjoyed that as a, like, first time through to kind of solve that, and how you can do that through film language and things like that is really fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
No, as much as I love to shoot, it's, you know, it's the editing process where you feel like you're literally, you have it in your hands in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it so much. I really, that's where films are made.
I really, yeah, and I didn't really understand that. I thought, because I just spent my whole life on sets, really.
Right.
And then it's like they open this door and they're like, why don't you, but what about this? And really, you're in the quiet of that edit suite, and it's just you and the editor kind of wrestling this thing to the ground, and you go home and you think about it, and dream about it, and come back the next day, and we're going to try this today. Oh, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, I just loved it. Yeah. I didn't anticipate loving it quite so much. And like you say, that is where the film, that is the art of filmmaking, really. And it's kind of, people don't talk about it. Like, I think when you're publicising a film, people really focus on the shooting of it.
Right, the set experience.
The set experience with the actors, I guess, because it's this physical thing you can film and show, whereas editing, probably if you filmed it, would look very boring. But.
No, it's simultaneously a long, tedious process, and so enlivening, so creative, and just, I mean, it's just really something.
Yeah.
And
Do you guys know when, oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that, you know, there are moments in editing when two things go together, or a sequence goes together, especially if it comes out of your own head, where you know, that notion of leaning in or feeling like filled up by something filmically, that there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing like it.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's almost transcendent.
I totally agree. Yeah, I really agree. It's perception, like, you know, when you're like right into the edit, like towards the end, and you start to kind of lose perception about whether a scene is working or not because you've just been too close to it for too long. Do you guys have things that you do to kind of combat that, or?
I wish I had a positive answer for that, but I think at a certain point you lose the whole movie, and then you have to just really work and trust on the constituent parts of the film, because I don't think you can really, at a certain point you just can't see it anymore, really. I mean, you do.
You do, yeah.
But you don't simultaneously.
I mean, we always screen it for other people, and the things that catch other people, they're not always the things you can fix even, but maybe they'll trigger some other solution that will help that problem. You know, it's a complicated thing, but I find I've got a kind of emotional feeling about things I myself am enjoying watching, and things that somehow create a kind of anxiety in me, and I that
In terms of like
yeah, that it's
anxiety,
not-
is it working or not?
Yeah,
or,
that it's not quite right, you know. And there's just a kind of
same.
feeling that there's something that I'm not as excited to have people see this scene in the movie or this performance. I'm not as excited to have people share yet, and I think that's when I know maybe something still needs a little more banging at.
Yeah, and it's this weird thing where it's a technical medium, but you were relying just instinctually about how you feel about a scene.
Yeah, right.
And that thing of like sometimes you'll edit the scene and it's beautiful and it fits in perfectly, but it's affecting the next 3 scenes, and you can't quite work out, well, why, if I edited the scene from last week, now does that affect these next 3 scenes? And then you have to kind of going macro for a minute before you go back into the micro. I found that really fascinating as well.
And we've had experiences where one section of the film we'll all instinctually feel that it's long, but not really, if you're really looking at it, like we'll just get caught in, but it doesn't play long, yet it's feeling long, and how do we adjust that? How do we make it, you know, more compressed?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. For us, it was the first 20 minutes because there was so much information. And so we edited it. We did an edit where we kind of tightened everything, and then it felt longer. And so I was talking to an editor, my friend Una, and she said, just let the seams out again, go back, read your script again, and just, if you let the audience in more, it will play faster. And so we did that, and it did. So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you can only learn by doing, I think. But it was interesting.
He speaks with such poetry, such truth.
But any man can speak. What I want to know is, can he actually do?
Do what?
Well, I was going to say another kind of set piece that we were kind of inspired by and really loved was the farewell to Branwell through the laundry when she's hanging the sheets and he's on the other side. That was just such a simple and beautiful idea, and it was so nicely realized. I just wanted to compliment you, but we were talking about her separateness and, you know, her being separate from other people, and that was just such a nice kind of metaphor for that, for, you know, being the other side of some you know, a relationship that meant so much to her.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I just, I was inspired by that painting. Oh God, I think it's Matisse. Is it Matisse? No. It's this surrealist painter, the one with the lovers. It's called The Lovers, where the one person has a sheet on them and they're kissing. And I just love that painting. And I thought it's great doing a scene where like a phone call really, like the 2 actors can't see each other. So, but the audience is holding all the information. And so then it puts the emotion onto the audience, and they're both holding different things, and we can see that, but the other actor doesn't know, or the character doesn't know that. So then the scene comes alive. And we did shoot like a 2-shot as well on both sides, and we never used any of it because it just played really well, just being on his side and then just being on her side. And yeah, I feel like those 2 characters are kind of symbiotic for quite a lot of the film. They start to kind of lose boundaries. And then at a certain moment, she wants to break free. She knows that like the only way she can really be her true self is she separates. And I thought also the sheet's kind of a good way to kind of start that in a way.
Yeah, no, it really worked.
Oh, thank you.
It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Lavender.
Emily Bronte's secret ingredient.
That was one of the ones, you know, you talk about like in your imagination. That was one of the ones that I was like, on the day, it was really windy and I thought we're not going to get it, and I felt so anxious shooting it. But it came together. Well, right at the end, everything just went broop, and you know, so.
Wind is always your friend.
Well, I don't know if always, but
I mean, when we shot Montana Story, I mean, that's one of the windiest places I've ever been.
Oh yeah,
And
you see that in the film too.
Those were gale force winds. I mean, it was so crazy that we were really unsure whether it was going to work. It was like, and we had no, you know, there was no stopping, there was no, you know, taking a time out. So like in the mine scene in the movie.
Oh, yeah,
that was
a great
that was
shot.
day one. And it was, the actors could barely hear themselves. And we had
Oh my God, you would never know that.
I know, and our location sound people were so good. We had no dialogue that needed to be replaced in the entire film.
Oh, that's
with
so
all
great.
with all of that wind, yeah.
But we were flying a drone that day, and we were getting to know everyone that day. It was just insane. But yeah, we look back and think, where would we have been without the wind? It becomes such a character in the movie.
Yeah, you
But,
feel that
yeah.
the air is very bracing, fresh, which is lovely.
Thinking of weather, another scene we really admired is her lying down in the rain and seeing the rain falling down from above. That was another kind of set piece that seemed so well imagined and then so nicely executed. But,
Oh, cool. Yeah, we kind of had, that was another, like a sequence I had kind of imagined. And again, I feel like that last kind of 20, we actually cut quite, we actually lost some scenes from that. The last kind of 15 minutes, and some stuff that I really loved with Bramwell. But it's just one of those things, it made it stronger not to have it in there. But we left that sequence in there. And it used to have music over it, actually, and it was like Abel had written his favourite piece, and he'd written it over her spinning. And because we did put temp music in there, but when we saw the whole thing with the real kind of score, it was just too much, and you started disconnecting from her. So we took the music out and then just had her spinning, so you could hear her breath and everything in the rain, and it was much better. Yeah. And it made it harder for the audience, I think, and more tense.
sad for the composer, but
What's that?
sad for the composer.
Apart from the composer, I'm like, hi, Abel, how you going?
Yeah.
You know that piece you love, but.
No, you got to kill your darlings.
Yeah. Do you guys ever lose scenes, or do you write fairly tightly?
It's rarely a whole scene that I become wistful about, but it'll be shots and moments.
Oh yeah.
Moments in scenes that have to go, that I so want to be in the movie, and then they just can't be.
Yeah, and it's weird because you shoot them and you actually, and they're like, when you read the script, they're completely justified being there.
Right.
But there's something about the process of filming where certain kind of elements just fall away, which was kind of shocking as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens for everybody, whether it's your first film or not.
Yeah, we've spent way too much time trying to make a shot work that we really want to be, and then finally having to abandon it.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's like part of a sequence, like,
Yeah.
but because this is not quite as it should be, then this doesn't work. I felt sometimes.
Well, sometimes we'll just find that the audience is farther ahead of us than we expected them to be. That, and a lot of it's because of actors' faces tell so much of the story that you can't really anticipate when you're writing, and so then, the audience is there. You don't need to carry on with all the clever things you'd planned.
Yes, yeah, because they've already got it.
Yeah.
But I think that's all right. I think that is part of the process of kind of, and that it is this live thing that when it gets put together, just the way it's put together, that the audience then will be ahead, or, yeah.
So did this pique your interest? Are you going to do this again?
Definitely, yeah. I'm busy writing
Oh,
my next thing, so I love it. It's like having a big sandbox and getting to play. So, yeah. Hopefully I'll get to
We'll look forward
do
to
it
that.
again.
Oh,
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to your next one.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Well, Francis, it's been really a pleasure talking to you. It's a beautiful movie, and we wish you all the best with it.
It's so beautifully made. So congratulations.
Oh,
and
thank you.
yeah.
Just a real pleasure meeting you guys and chatting. It's been
Likewise.
great.